to Power Conversations podcast by What's Your Superpower TV. This podcast features conversations of overcoming by faith and pushing through to fulfill a purpose-driven life. This podcast is hosted by CEO and best-selling author Nadia Francois. Welcome to the broadcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Power Conversations podcast, summer book tour, the Juneteenth edition. Power Conversations is a division of What's Your Superpower Digital Media, a kingdom empowerment brand that offers visibility opportunity to entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, and community leaders. Learn more at www.whatsuperpower.com. Tonight we have joining us author Kathleen Hampton. Kathleen is a published author, life coach, and community advocate. She is founder and CEO of Be Her Valentine, an organization devoted to the needs of battered women living in sheltered environments. Kathleen is a motivational speaker, mentor, and highly skilled teacher of self-awareness, control, and reform to unlock the hidden potential we all possess yet fail to tap into and break cycles of negativity. Welcome, Queen.
Thank you for having me, Queen Nadia. Thank you so much. It's an honor. Thank
You
you.
are very welcome. You are very welcome. Now you have this amazing publication.
Yes. Mr. Earl is a phenomenal read. Uh, Yay. Yeah.
Yes,
So
tell us all about it.
Well, Mr. Earl, again, is a very in-depth read that's also very short because when I came into the knowledge of what my purpose was, but we'll get onto that on the back end as it would relate to writing, I realized that as a person who has a very hectic and busy schedule, but is an avid reader, it's important to keep things kind of condensed, get your point across, but also make it enjoyable, suspenseful in an abridged fashion. So Mr. Earl is maybe just a little over 100 pages, give or take, right at 100. But the book as a whole speaks to deep-seated traumas, right? And how the wrong man tends to fan the flames, if you will, of misfortune and failure in interpersonal relationships with women as a whole. Mr. Earl asks the question of who in three parts. So, in one aspect, it asks you, who are you? In another aspect, it asks you, who were you before this relationship? And then in a third and final aspect, it asks you, who will you become? So, dealing with Earl as a dynamic, you get to see how traumas, if you will, from our youth, some of us from birth, adolescence, young adulthood, and even into whatever phase of life you are now, how it is that these traumas, if you will, have and continue to affect us as women until we learn who we are and how to break those cycles of negativity. And one of the things that we look at is this whole concept of he is my everything, right? Because when we get into a relationship, we have the tendency, if you will, to build our world around that other individual that we're in this relationship with. And when you make a person your everything, that is a complete recipe for disaster, because it's in that place that you lose complete identity with going back to those who you are, who you were before, and then oftentimes because you lose the first two who's, it's almost impossible for you to see the third who, which is who you will become. So when we
Mm.
talk about Mr. Earl, there's a theme, if you will, that you will find in the opener or the prelude, that simply says a whole and happy version. See, because you have to be whole, but you also have to be happy. And so it's all about being a whole and happy version of yourself, right? And then in the process of that, on the learning scale, we tend to find out what love is, but also, Nadia, what love is not. And so
Yes.
when we get into the dynamic, and I begin to think about everyday scenarios, right? Things that every single woman can relate to. Maybe not yourself,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not myself, but maybe that niece, right? Maybe that
Mm-hmm.
coworker, maybe that cousin, maybe that lady at the gas station that's always with a bubbly conversation when you get your coffee in the morning. It's something that every person in everyday real life can relate to, whether it's being overweight and feeling rejected because he can't see past your weight line, whether it's dealing with traumas from your childhood. Perhaps you were mishandled as a child. Maybe you were mishandled physically. Maybe you were mishandled emotionally or mentally. But we developed 8 different personas when we came up with Mr. Earl. And the 8 different personas can all be found in the table of contents, if you will. So you have Tasha, for example, who deals with the real life aspect of validation.
Mm-hmm.
The individual who always needs to be validated. A lot of us, we don't like her, right, Queen? We don't like her, because we always have to tell her she's on top. We always have to tell her it's gonna be okay. Girl, you look good, girl. Oh, girl, don't worry about that. Oh, girl, we love you. So, Tasha is that character again that deals with validation. She has a lot of bitterness and resentment issues. Um, she's not a very good communicator and she jumps to conclusions. And
Mm.
as a result, yeah, so she has some cycles that need desperately to be broken. And then we look at Lisa, right? Lisa is a character that lacks the ability to speak up for herself. We all know that queen as well, right? And it's, why do you
Mm-hmm.
just let people walk over you? Why do you take that? Why won't you just say something? So Lisa has a problem with just saying, hey, no. She has a
Mm-hmm.
problem saying enough is enough, right? We all know that individual. We all know that person that fails to stand up for herself. And so, because she can't stand up for herself, she's very easily manipulated. She's
Mm-hmm.
easily controlled because she doesn't have a voice and she just kind of goes along with everything because she got her man, girl, and she don't want to lose her man. So she just kind of goes with the flow and she ends up being controlled. She also speaks to the over religious queen, right? The one that's so religious that she can't even understand what she's reading, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then we have Ramona. Ramona is a character that has champagne taste, but initially in the beginning, doing it all on a chicken wing budget, right? We all know her as well, right? And so Ramona, however, is one of my favorites because as I developed the Ramona character, it kind of snowballed into showing individuals how she started out in a one position, but then the other side of her that was kind of dark led her along paths that entered her into addictions, that entered her into connecting with men that had power but were more along the lines of mobsters or gangsters. And all of that led to her meeting her particular Earl. Then you have Aisha. Aisha is a small child in a small town with a family that has a lot of secrets. Ends
Mhm.
up getting molested as a child. Teenage pregnancy comes from that. Just different things that people hide in the family. Different things that go on every single day, but people don't talk about. And how the mother took that child and raised that child, and ultimately she runs away and falls into the hands of a guy who gets her addicted to the adult syndicate, if you will. And she ultimately has AIDS, and this is how her Earl carries her into a place that has more darkness. Then you have Lynette. Lynette is a liar. Again, I tell you, Nadia, this is a great book because, again, we all know the liar. We all know the person that has that really weird family, like Aisha. We all know these people, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Lynette is a liar. She is a habitual liar that gets caught in her own web, and this is how her story catapults her into meeting her Earl. And that one is also a really great read. I'm not going to tell you about that one because that one is one of those, oh, wow, she did that moments, right? And then we have the chapter where we absolutely deal with Earl. I had someone ask me, because I am a blogger and I am a person that does a lot of empowerment pieces, and I had a person ask, "Well, why do men date these women and not black women and this sort of thing?" And so I took this particular chapter to remind women that we literally went through a phase in the 80s where the whole dynamic of the black family changed, where we had to go through the crack epidemic, where we had teenage pregnancy from one end of the country to the other, and how all of these things changed the way that men looked at women, particularly black women, how it caused them to hate the
Mhm.
women that literally gave birth to them and look for biracial relationships. And I explained to them from a perspective outside of yourself, because when you're in a relationship, it can't always be about your needs. You have to try to understand why that person reacts, does, says the things that they do and say. And if you can't put yourself in that person's imagery, then you're not growing as an individual either. And so
Mhm.
the publisher thought, oh my God, Kathy, that is so good. He literally printed Earl twice. I kid you not. So Earl has two chapters just for him, right? And then we talk about Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is a character that's very professional. She has a lot going for herself. She travels, she sees the world, but she is lonely. And this one deals with the difference between being alone, because this is a big one, ladies. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. And
Yeah.
poor Gwendolyn falls into the category of lonely. And so she gets lonely, and this guy's interested, but then because of the perception of his friends who saw that she was beautiful and she was articulate and she had all of these other things, but they begin to make light of her to him and say horrible things about her because she was one of the curvy girls. She was a pleasantly plump sister, right? She was that sister that had a little something something, and they thought, yeah, well, but you need a size 2, right?
Mm.
You need a size 5 on your arm. You don't necessarily need somebody that can out eat everybody in the restaurant. And so he's dealing with things, and because he can't figure out who he is and quiet the voices of everybody else, which is another thing that people deal with every day. So many women date guys who can't think for themselves. They can't
Yeah.
be in a relationship because they care too much about what other people think. And poor Gwendolyn starts thinking about bariatric surgery. She starts thinking about getting all of these different things to alter her image just to get the guy. So
Wow.
it doesn't end that way for her, of course, but I'm going to let y'all read that. I just had to make it just a little interesting so people can understand that, hey,
Yeah.
there's somebody out there that gets us. There's somebody out there that understands that we really deal with this stuff, right?
Yeah.
We really deal with people who judge us based on our waistline. It has nothing to do with how beautiful we are, nothing to do with how accomplished we are, but just because we are on the other side of size 14, we don't get the guy. And so Gwendolyn is that character. And then the last chapter is all about you, right? It's all about the things that you as a person really need to focus on. Like, for instance, learning how to be good with yourself. Just be good with you, right?
Yeah.
Just be good with you. No matter what, be good with you. Um, you're you are not your particular circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to 100% be good with you. And we did all of that in just about 100 pages. And Mr. Earl hit the market last March. And then in August, it was inducted into the Library of Congress. So we are very, very proud of this body of work. And in the fall, we're doing Arlene.
Yay. Yes, yes, yes.
Because the guys get crazy women too.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of commentary on one of my pages, and the fellas was like, "It can't always be about the women, you know. You guys do stupid stuff too, you know." And I was like, "You know what? Yeah,
You're right.
we definitely got to do Erlene. So
Okay.
Erlene is coming, fellas. Erlene is coming. Yes, she is. Erlene is coming. But I have enjoyed this body of work, and it's all over the country. It's on all continents. It's in about 3 different languages, and you can get it anywhere. You can even get it from Walmart and Target now. So we are just really, really excited about Mr. Earl. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So every time I hear you explain this book, it gets better and better. I love it, Queen. Tell us how we can get to the book.
So there are many, many platforms for you to get your copy of Mr. Earl. You can go through Life Rich Publishing, of course, and get your copy there. For all of you who have busy lives like myself and my Queen Nadia here, and you're always on the go, you can absolutely go to your Apple or your Android app. You can go to Kindle. You can get you a digital copy of the book. Amazon, um, Books a Million. Oh my God, Books a Million, Barnes and Nobles, any platform that sells book mediums. I'm even in the airport, right? So you can
Yay.
literally get this book anywhere you are. So if you're in the airport, you can get a copy of the book. If you're locally here in the Orleans area, there are several locations in the Marigny and French Quarter areas and throughout Metairie where you can go to these different bookstores and they have the book as well. Um, you can also contact me personally if you want an autographed copy, and you can reach me at No More Cycles Coach. No More Cycles Coach at gmail.com. Leave me just a little bit about yourself and how you want your book to read. We can accept payment in any way that you would like to make payment. Yes, we are able to take major credit cards, and we would be more than thrilled to get you your copy of Mr. Earl. And again, you can order it on Walmart and Target as well. As a matter of fact, I think they ship in like 2 days if you want to go Walmart and Target.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Queen, for joining us,
It was
telling
such
us
a
about this amazing book.
always a pleasure. Always a
Yes,
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
you're very welcome. Guys, connect with this Queen Kathleen Hampton with Mr. Earl, an amazing, amazing novel for us in our relationships or our situationships or however you want to call them. She has it covered. She has us covered. And then she has information about the guys for the guys as well. So make sure you grab your copy of Mr. Earl at all your major book outlets, the airport, the Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or you can email her no more cycles coach at gmail.com. It's in the comments. Reach out to this queen. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
You have an amazing night.
You as well.